Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome again from Youth Force Racing. My name is Tina Snell. I'm speaking to you from South Africa, quite warm South Africa. And what you see on screen is maybe even a little warmer. That is Grevenbroich in Germany. And we are about to go into the last two races that we will feature for this weekend. The riders on track now on their warm-up lap, if you were talking in MotoGP terms, or just the sighting lap in motocross terms, are the 125cc riders. They are known as the Junior Cup in ADAC or ADAC parlance. Of course, the ADAC series is the premier series in Germany. It has been going for a long, long time. It's a very, very popular series, very, very well organized always, and a lot of the world's top riders, GP stars, have participated in the series and still do participate in the series. In fact, we just saw, that wasn't in our broadcast, but in the MX Masters class, the second race of their class on the weekend, which had just concluded about half an hour ago, was won by Jordi Tixier, the Frenchman, former motocross world champion and still a participant in the motocross world championships. Now, the MX Youngster Cup are lining up. There you can see the grid. Martin Venhoda from Czech Republic, he won the first race. He's in pole position. Max Paulsen from Sweden, who won the second race in second position. Konstantin Piller from Germany, third. Kevin Bruman, the Swiss rider, who unfortunately had a problem in the first race. He is fourth. Kato Nickel. Then we have our friend from Denmark, William Kleeman. His brother races, Victor races in the 250 class. We see also names like Romeo Karu, the Estonian, and quite a few other riders who are, in fact, members of our group in Youth Force Racing. Now, the group is just about 3 months old, going on for 4 months. We're heading for the 1,000-member mark, which is entirely pleasing. The objectives of the group is to introduce riders from different parts of the world to each other, to introduce riders of different racing disciplines to each other, so that motocrossers learn about road races, learn about speedway riders, and so on, and to, in general, promote the sport, have let's say, a portal for people to upload their media, to share their great moments from the sport that we all love so very much. The riders are lining up. You will hear in the background some German commentary, and we will try and translate for you on the fly what the commentators are speaking about, and also with our own observations as to what's happening on track.
Und jetzt schauen wir es uns an. Jetzt lassen wir uns überraschen. Dritter Lauf.
The grand final, the commentator says, of course, with the very much reduced ADAC series, it's normally around about 8 rounds, 6 to 8 rounds. This year, only 2 rounds. But in order to get a few more races in each round, has 3 races per class, except for the 85cc class. So 3 races per class, as opposed to the normal 2 races per class in the normal ADAC MX Masters season. Riders are under starters orders, and let's have a look at the start.
Ja, das gibt's ja gar nicht. Und wieder ist es die 437 Martin Venhoda mit dem
Okay, and there our commentator says it in no unclear fashion. Martin van Hoda, the Czech, shot into the lead. Of course, him and Max Paulsen are sharing the points at the moment. If Van Hoda manages to clinch the overall, he would be the second Czech for the weekend to do so, because countryman Julek Mikula took home the honors in the 85cc class.
An diesem Wochenende, diesem Rennwochenende hier. Erstes Rennwochenende ADAC MX Masters, Short Season. Zweiter Tourstopp ja an dieser Stelle.
Very distinctive Martin van Hoda is in his blue kit, and you can see how rough the track had gotten over the last 2 days.
Einen befinden wir uns mittendrin, beziehungsweise am Anfang 125 Kubikzentimeter Piloten und ein altes Bild haben wir hier. Martin van Hoda aus Tschechien kommt er.
Waiting for the timing screens to update us, and then we'll give you the state of play in this race. Van Hoda not having it all his own way.
Deswegen hatten wir eine gute 15 Minuten Pause eingeschoben. Jetzt wieder Vollgas zu attackieren. Hier die Strecke ist bereit, wo die Piloten es sind, und die sind es natürlich auch. Das wissen wir. Absolut heiß hier auf den zweiten von insgesamt 3 Rennläufen zu gewinnen. Martin van Hoda.
All right, and it is indeed Max Paulsen. Of course, there's been a huge battle between these two throughout the weekend. Whoever wins today between the two takes the overall. Romeo Karu, our friend from Estonia, in third. He's had a bit of a difficult weekend till now.
Paul Bloy auf der 6, Tuneke 7.
The German commentator enjoying it, because Erik Rakow, Konstantin Piller, Paul Bloy and Max Tuneke, the German riders, holding steady in 4th to 7th place. Kevin Bruman, who had a bike problem in the first race, in 8th. And then William Kleeman, our friendly Dane, in 9th.
Martin van Hoda also.
Lucas Brun, another one of our very active group members, also a Danish rider. Actually, Lucas Brun is a twin, but his brother doesn't race. And Lucas, at the moment, in 26th position, hoping to work his way forward. And in fact, there's a trio of Danes, Lucas Brun, Kasper Mortensen and Magnus Gregersen, giving each other the best of their experience.
Ich habe es vorhin schon angesprochen, einmal Platz 1, einmal Platz 2, für beide dasselbe Spiel. Also wird es jetzt wirklich richtig spannend, was da am Ende dieser 20 Minuten plus.
Indeed, as the commentator says, getting quite tense in the racing, seeing what happens. They featuring.
Jetzt wird's ganz eng.
And the pace is fierce throughout the field. Of course, every position is a battle. Every position that you do better than the last race is a small victory for a rider.
Und jetzt sind wir wieder geswitcht ganz nach vorne, und da trennen sie nach wie vor lediglich eine gute Sekunde.
1.2 seconds separating the first two riders, Van Hoda and Paulsen, with Kauru a further 6 seconds behind.
1,2 Sekunden. Und die neue schnellste Runde für Van Hoda 2:09.
Van Hoda just posted the fastest lap time, according to the commentator. That's
Maxi Paulsen, jetzt verfolgen wir sie da mal vorne drehen. Martin Van Hoda und Max Paulsen.
So this battle is intense, because this is indeed for the overall victory, and you can see that the two leaders are actually putting quite a bit of distance between themselves and the followers. Romeo Karu has a gap of about 4 seconds on the rider following him.
Rakow ordentlich unter Druck. Erik Rakow, der KTM-Pilot vom MTR Motorsports Team, auf der KTM unterwegs. Und Konsti Piller, der Deutsche vom Cossack Racing Team. matchen sich hier Rang 4.
Konstantin Piller has just moved into 4th place, past fellow German Eric Rakov. That information we have from the commentators who are on track, of course. Oh, and this battle is heating up. Paulsen is pushing, different line, outside line, maybe switch across.
Der Schwede, nach wie vor das Nachsehen, aber das setzt ihn ordentlich unter Druck da vorne drin. Anderthalb Motorradlängen.
And now he takes the inside line, pushes him wide.
Gleich auf über den Sprung. Und ist noch nicht ganz vorbei.
Little mini scrubs from both riders trying to get the wheels down, power down on the track. But it's clear that this is a battle. They are both riders with similar speed. Oh, and a bit of a dab and a sticker kicker from Paulsen. Nearly had a leg over the seat and off, but he managed to save it.
Die Jungs machen ernst da vorne drin. So, wir läuten in wenigen Augenblicken die dritte Runde ein. Noch dasselbe Bild, 4:37 vor 5:68, beziehungsweise Tschechien vor Schweden.
Czech Republic in front of Sweden, according to the commentator. And Paulsen is taking a wide outside line, trying to slingshot into the straight. Often, of course, on sand tracks, the outside line might be faster because you maintain momentum. Giving you speed into the next straight and also holding your rhythm. Yeah, the commentator speaking about the track splitting up, so there's two different, you have a clear option of which section you would want to go on. Benhoda seems to be a bit faster in the midsection of the track, but right here where the action is now, Paulsen seems to catch up again. And of course, catching the rider is one thing, passing is another. So he needs to select his line, try and make the pass, make it stick, and prevent the repass. Oh, and Paulsen on the inside. He's got it now. He's got it. Führungswechsel, one of the nice long German words, which means a change in leadership. And indeed, Paulsen has immediately opened up a bit of a gap. So it could be that Benhoda was holding him back a bit. And you can see in the background how much of a gap they've opened up on the riders following. Romero Caru is, let's say, about 10 seconds behind this battle for the lead. William Kleeman, the Dane, holding steady in 8th position. And notably another Swede, Teddy Yondell, in 10th position. So two Swedes in the top 10, a good few Germans, of course, 3-4 Germans in the top 10, which one might expect at the home race, but it wasn't always so. There were often very many international riders entered into the German Masters races, and it was in fact, in some instances, it was unusual for German riders to be well represented in the top 10. But a lot of nationalities in the top 10. We, looking at the scoreboard, we see a Swedish flag, a Czech one, an Estonian, a German, a Swiss flag, a couple of Germans more, another Swedish flag, and a Latvian flag. So 5 nationalities in the top 10, a truly international race.
5 Sekunden hinter dem drittplatzierten Romeo Caru aus Estland.
And Paulsen has indeed opened up a nearly 1.3 second gap now on Benhoda. Caru has fallen some 13 seconds behind. And he in turn has a 5-second lead over homeboy Konstantin Piller. Just checking down the order just to see where Lucas Brunner's got to. Yes, he's indeed advanced to 25th position, hoping to get into the points in
hat sich absolut Weltklasse entwickelt.
20th. Of course, the top 20 would mean points.
Wirklich schnell unterwegs. Wenn es ihm ein bisschen läuft, dann kann er seine Leistung wirklich sensationell gut abrufen. Und ja, er ist im Begriff, genau das zu tun. Die 5,32.
As you can see, beautiful weather on the track. Sun still overhead, not long shadows, even though it's 3 in the afternoon.
Bald mal die 5. Runde ein. So, Halson vor Ben Hoda, das Ganze 1,9 Sekunden, hat er also ein paar Zehntelsekunden gut gemacht auf den zweitplatzierten Ben Hoda.
Then Paulsen has indeed opened up a few more seconds of lead on Ben Hoda. Or when I say a few seconds, close to 2 seconds.
Hinter ihm und nochmals 3 Sekunden der Kevin Brumann. Also auch da ist der Drop noch nicht ganz gelutscht.
And as we remarked before, unusually large gaps for a low capacity motocross race, but that is partially as a result of the fact of the race being on a sand track, on a deep sand track, which does more to separate the riders. Were it on a hardpack track, the racing would in all probability be somewhat closer.
Ja, Fanny sehr souverän, sehr konstant auch, die Rundenzeiten. Wobei Kevin Brumann jetzt
consistent lap times, the commentator says, and indeed that is the secret. Yeah, Paulsen indeed consistent lap times with his last 3 laps in 2:11, 2:9, 2:10, all within a second and a bit of each other. But then again, so with Ben Hoda, he's 2:12, a 2:11, and a 2:10. Just a tad slower though. On tracks like these, a very rough sand track, as the riders get tired during the run of the race, as it gets toward the mid and end stages of the race, riders, and here's where fitness comes in, riders, the lap times will sometimes drop substantially.
So, Max Paulsen nach wie vor Martin Ben Hoda, und da schauen wir jetzt gleich mal, was sich vorne abspielt, und da sind wir schon wieder dabei. Danke an die Regie, sensationell, so soll es sein. Max Paulsen und Martin Ben Hoda, hier haben wir sie im Bild. 5,68 vor 4,37, beide dieselbe Linie da hinten, wo sich die Strecke splittet.
Oh, and it looks like the gap is closed down substantially. No, there's been Hoda coming through past the lapped riders now. So Paulsen still has a bit of a lead. Oh, Vinoda having a bit of problems getting through the traffic there. He'll take the inside line on that corner and get the pass done. Paulsen, in the meantime, has a good rhythm going on that sea of tranquility, as we may call it that. Another lapped rider. Just make sure to get a clean pass. He'll go around the outside, has superior speed and easily done. And you can see the difference in speed between Paulsen and the lapped rider just within a small section of the track. He's opened up a 2-3 second gap already. Another lapped rider, and here is where you pick up new riders. This is where they learn a lot, to see how a fast rider gets past slower traffic. Just to see, don't follow in the same line, take a different line, because of course, if the rider ahead of you has a problem and tips over and you are in the same line, there's no avoiding it and you'll crash yourself. More traffic coming up. So big speed differences on the track today. Paulsen made quick work of that. Another rider about to be passed. Paulsen going for the inside. Commentator says he had to change his line just to avoid a get-together there. Indeed, that is so.
Da biegen wir jetzt gleich mal ein. 5 Minuten haben wir noch, plus 2 Runden.
5 minutes and 2 laps to go. We hear from the announcer, and indeed the scoreboard confirms that that is exactly so. Oh, something happened to William Kleeman. We didn't notice that before. He's dropped back to a 12th position. He is in front of his fellow countryman Jaden Young-Smith. Let us just see further down. Oh, and Lucas Brun is in 24th, moving ever closer to the points. Yes, Casper Mortensen, a fellow Dane, in 22nd position. So the battle is all out to get into that all-important 20th spot to get onto the scoreboard.
Und Konsti Piller hat anscheinend seinen Rhythmus gefunden.
Konstantin Piller has found his rhythm, the commentator says, and let's look what the tale is that the scoreboard tells us. Konstantin Piller, yes indeed. Konstantin Piller is closing up on Romeo Caru, so to make the third position his own.
Hier lässt hier nicht eine Hundertstelsekunde liegen. Ganz wichtig jetzt in der Situation. 3,5 Minuten haben wir noch zu fahren, plus 2 Runden. Und er weiß, der Konsti Piller ist schnell und hängt mir im Nacken. Allerdings, ja, gute 2 Sekunden dahinter. Schaut jetzt.
Konsti Piller has 2 seconds to catch up before he can take the battle to Caru, the Estonian. So, of course, the home fans will be shouting and supporting, because to have a local man on the podium would be great. And of course, they had a lot to shout about in the junior, in the Youngster Cup race, the MX2 class, which we showed the race before, and which will follow this one again, with Maximilian Spies taking a very, very convincing victory. German youngster, 16, 17 years old. He's already got his first GP World Championship MX2 points on the board, and that's not a bad start for your first wildcard ride.
Paulson jetzt ein Respektabstand von 5,4 Sekunden rausgefahren auf Martin Venhoda. Also der hat
Paulson's last lap time 2 seconds faster than Venhoda, opened up the gap to 5.5 seconds between first and second. And Piller is right on the rear, my God, of Caru, only 0.7 of a second behind.
Romeo Caru jetzt auch vorbei, Piller und Brumann im Schlepptau. Jetzt wurde aus dem Zweikampf plötzlich ein Dreikampf angeführt.
Oh, Kevin Brumann has also joined this little battle, the Swiss rider. Oh, and young Max Tunica, the German young hopeful, he's dropped to 9th. Still a very great, very good representative ride for him in probably his first appearance in this class. William Kleeman still in 12th, which means he was in the points in each of the races, which is always good, that kind of consistency.
Da geht jetzt die Post ab beim Platz ums Podium hier bei diesem dritten und letzten Lauf.
And of course, the commentator, in the German commentator, quite rightfully very excited because Konstantin Piller making a lunge for the podium in this race. The overall situation for the 3 races still not clear. What is clear is that Max Paulsen is at the moment heading the table with Venhoda second. Who is actually third, we don't know yet.
Dritten Plätzen nach Lauf 1 und 2 wäre er jetzt, wenn das Rennen jetzt vorbei wäre, nach wie vor gesamtsiegerehrungstechnisch, gesamtwertungstechnisch auf Rang 3. Sollte hier aber nicht mehr viel
Commentator mentioning the total or the joint points for the 3 races, and obviously there are hopes that Konstantin Piller could do so.
Der 4. und 5. Platzierte. Paulson jetzt in die 9. Runde eingebogen. Venhoda auch, 7 Sekunden hinter Paulson, also der fährt hier ein Wahnsinnsrennen. Max Paulson.
In a loose translation of the German you heard is that Paulsen is riding a crazy race. And by that they mean a crazy fast race, because his gap is now 7 seconds in the lead.
Karu vorbei, Piller vorbei. Und wo ist Brumann? Wo ist Kevin Brumann?
Oh, Kevin Brumann has dropped back. He's dropped back to 6th spot. So something must have gone wrong with the Swiss rider. Not exactly his weekend. He was lying in 3rd position when he had a bike problem in the very first race on Saturday. Not his weekend, exactly what we've just said. The commentator confirms that.
Den dritten Podestplatz, jetzt ein Zweikampf geworden. Karu führt hier nach wie vor Piller den Kampf um Platz 3 an.
Karu and Piller still having a battle for the 3rd spot. And of course, it's always a little bit special to say that you've had a race podium, and especially so in an international event of this magnitude. In 1 to 5 cc terms in European racing, this is at a very high level. Obviously, the highest level would be the European Championships, the EMX 1 to 5. But as far as international races are concerned, this is indeed at the high level itself.
Jetzt sprechen wir noch von einer Sekunde, maximal hier.
3 laps to go before we see the flag.
Der Blick nach hinten, ich habe es gerade gesagt, der spürt, was da los ist.
Oh, and the lap rider just giving a nervous look behind, seeing the leader coming, bearing down on him at speed, and wisely so getting out of the way. And you can see that Paulsen still has all his energies with him, easily gets the step down there. And of course, it works in their favor if you're able to jump further and jump out of the rough stuff, because the riders that short jump churn up the track, and if everybody that jumps in the same spot, it gets worse and worse. So if you can extend your jump and get across and beyond that, that makes it all the easier for you. But that, of course, is easier said than done.
Auf die wir gespannt sein können. Jetzt beide wieder dieselbe Linienwahl. Piller frisst hier Dreck von Karu.
Piller and Karu battle.
Jetzt einen zu überrundenden vor sich.
And a left rider in front of them. So this could change the outcome of this. Piller is on the attack.
Piller hat jetzt definitiv aufgeschlossen auf Karu.
He's definitely got the connection, the commentator says, and you can see they are on the same obstacle. It's always mentally, for a following rider, it's an extra boost if you see that the rider ahead of you is in the air and you in the air yourself already and on the same jump, which means that there is a virtual connection between you two. It's within the literal striking distance. And you can see there, even on a short jump, and then Piller goes inside, forces Karu wide, and he takes the position. So Piller is third.
Wahnsinnig perfektes Überholmanöver. Was will man mehr? Piller jetzt neuer Drittplatzierter.
And as often happens, once the pass is made, the rider that's been passed has had his energy spent, because Piller immediately worked himself into quite a bit of a lead in terms of that little battle.
Meine Damen und Herren, sind im letzten Rennen der 125er Piloten in der letzten Runde angekommen.
Last lap for Max Paulsen. Of course, speaking of Sweden, one of our super young talents, Freddie Bartlett, is a young 85cc rider, 11 years old, already on an 85cc bike. He's the Yamaha Blue Crew winner, so he gets official support from Yamaha. He's an Englishman, but who lives in Sweden now. and because of local regulations preventing him from riding, because in their view he's too young. He participates in Danish races, and he's had a couple of top fives in Danish championship races, which is a phenomenal result for a debutant in this class. And Denmark has indeed got a very competitive series. Nice stretch from Paulsen. He's only slightly built, small rider, but he's making it work for him. And as we hear from the commentator, the overall victory is within smelling distance for him. Let's see how he celebrates. Ben Hoda has closed the gap to 5 seconds, but I think Paulsen is just cruising on this lap, not wishing to make any mistakes and overcooking it with the flag in view. There you see Ben Hoda in the background. As Paulsen rounded the corner and went down the straight, Ben Hoda came down the other side. Still riding cleanly, and he takes the flag.
Jetzt kommt er, dritter und letzter Lauf. Die Gesamtwertung geht an die 568.
Number 568, Max Paulsen, overall winner for today.
Auch Martin Van Hoda jetzt mit 7 Sekunden Rückstand.
7 seconds behind Martin Van Hoda. And let's see if homeboy Konstantin Piller secures his third.
Ein erster Platz, 2 zweite Plätze für Van Hoda, 2 erste Plätze, ein zweiter Platz für Max Paulsen.
And Piller indeed gets it. Romeo Caro in fourth. And let's see if the unfortunate Swiss Kevin Bruman secures his fifth.
Piller jetzt gerade über die schwarz-weiß karierte Flagge auf Platz 3 beendet er sein Rennen. Caro dementsprechend auf 4, hat hier nochmals gut 4 Sekunden liegen lassen in der letzten Runde.
All right, and we will be heading down to the overall podium very, very shortly and get some interviews. Now, 2 of the interviews will be in English, that being with the first and second place riders, the Swedish and Czech riders, and depending who's third overall, it might be home man Konstantin Piller. That would be in German.
Im dritten und letzten Wertungslauf. Paul Bloy also auf der 6.
Paul Bloy, there's a name we didn't mention much during the race, also one of Germany's young emerging stars. He's in 6th. Teddy Yondell, the other Swede, managed to finish in 7th. A few Danes, William Kleeman actually worked himself back up to 10th, which is a good ride. Magnus Gregersen 19th, and Jaden Young-Schmidt in 13th position. Oh, and Lucas Brun, unfortunately, after a spirited ride, trying to get to the points, didn't get to the finish. Something must have happened. Yeah, he's 4 laps down, so 3 laps from the end. Something happened to Lucas Brun.
Auf der 12, Schmidt auf der 13, Greiner 14.
Beautiful scenery at the track. As I said, the Grevenbroich not far at all from the Dutch border. So for many Dutch riders, it's actually a closer sprint to get to the track than for some German riders. Yeah, the track is just to the southwest of Düsseldorf, just to the east of Roermond in Holland. Just lost our feed for a minute, but it's back.
Da ist sie, wie gesagt, Max Paulsen auf der 1, Martin Van Hoda 2, Konsti Piller vom Cosa Racing Team auf 3, Romeo Caro 4, Kevin Bruman 5, Paul Bloy auf der 6, Teddy Yondell 7, Kato Nickel auf der 8, Erik Krakow auf der 9, William Foxen Kleemann auf der 10, Robert Slusis 11, Max Hunecke, Jaden Young-Schmidt, Fritz Greiner, Richard Stephan, Jan Krug, Nick Sellan, Colin Bonas, Magnus Gregersen.
Many Germans represented in the top 20, which must be pleasing to the home organizers.
Al-Masuri vom Saals Racing Team, KTM, der Deutsche auf 21, Kaspar Mortensen auf 22, Moses Röder, Leonhard Frenker, Colin Sarre, Robin Schöndorf, Jimmy Oppitz, Emil Manuel Buccioni, Nelas Pekatauskas und Danilo Großer bis 30. Das also die ersten 30. Luca Brun, Schmidt, Göttner, Weiß, Oswald, Duvier und Fuchs von 31 bis 37. Ja, ich glaube, meine Damen und Herren, wir haben Ihnen nicht zu viel versprochen. Nicht hier in Grevenbroich, nicht zu Hause an den Bildschirmen. Wir haben gesagt, es wird ein Renntag, der sich sehen lassen kann. Haben uns
If you look at the top of the table, just there where the person is walking under the bridge, a rider just checking the track, checking the takeoff, probably will come to the other side to check the landing. Now, that would be one of the Youngster Cup race riders in the 250 class. Those are preparing their gates now, and that race is due to start soon.
Der 125 Kubikzentimeter Piloten gesehen. Da haben wir jetzt das Resultat. Also, ich will jetzt nicht vorne weggreifen, das sehen wir gleich bei der Gesamtsiegerehrung. Ja, und was wir jetzt noch vor uns haben, ist eben die Gesamtsiegerehrung der 125er Piloten. Dann haben wir noch den dritten
You
Lauf.
see the machinery going out just to fix the takeoff of the jump there. Rider is happy. He's happy that that takeoff is going to be smoothed out a bit, because it can be quite scary if the takeoff is all rutted, and especially if it's cross-rutted. So the rider is kind of supervising there.
Lauf, den wir hier zu Beginn hier am Nachmittag gesehen haben. Nach den Youngsters waren sie dran. Die Masters-Piloten. Das zweite Rennen. Wahnsinn, was sich da abgespielt hat. Und genau.
All right, and after a few dabs, the machine trots off again, tugs off again to the center of the track, maybe going to fix other sections of the track with a takeoff. Right, and there we have the 3 podium bikes. And let's hear what the interviews bring us. Oh, Tommy Deitenbach posing with the winning bike.
So, das ist natürlich alles fliegend hier das Thema. Wir kommen zum Podium, Platz Nummer 3. Geht an die Mannschaft in Orange an, WZ Racing, geht an Deutschland, geht an Kato Nickel.
Kato Nickel, local rider, third.
So, und für den Kato gibt es natürlich zum einen die wunderschöne Trophäe. Und dann haben wir wieder Preise von 24.
And the KTM lockout on the podium, all 3 bikes from the Orange crew.
Von NR83, Nathan Rankins Racing Team. Aus Tschechien kommt Martin Venhoda.
The team of Nathan Renkens, the Belgian, Martin Venhoda, the Czech.
Für ihn die Trophäe und einen flammenroten.
And here comes our friendly Swede.
Lenker. And the winner from Sweden, aus Schweden, ebenfalls für WZ Racing, Max Palsson. Und für ihn die größte Trophäe und den prall
Blonde Puffy girl could very well have been a Swede herself. Would look familiar to Max because not unfamiliar with podium ceremonies.
Ja, nochmal einen kräftigen Applaus für Kato Nickel, Martin Venroda und Max Palsson. So, und wir nehmen jetzt die Gelegenheit wahr, um ganz kurz noch mit dem Sieger zu sprechen. Max, du wolltest gewinnen. You desperately wanted to win this day.
Yeah, it was so nice to win, and I worked really hard for this long time, and together with the team, and it feels really good to finally get it off my back.
Ja, also er sagt, natürlich ist es toll zu gewinnen, auch für das Team. Es war ein harter Kampf mit Martin um diesen Entscheidungslauf. It was a really tough fight with Martin for the decision.
Yeah, he rode really good, but I found some good lines and I could make it pass. So.
Ja, es war wirklich gut, aber er hat ein paar tolle Linien gefunden und somit war es für ihn dann natürlich auch recht einfach, an dem vorbeizugehen. Und jetzt führst du die Meisterschaft an. Now you're leading the championship. Still 3 races more to go in 2 weeks.
Yeah, unfortunately, I probably cannot line up because I got the European Championship in Italy. So, yeah.
Ja, also, er weiß noch nicht, ob er dann dabei sein kann, weil es eine Terminüberschneidung mit der EMX in Italien geben wird. Schauen wir mal, wo der Weg hingehen wird. Noch einmal
in case you didn't hear that, Max Palsson said that it was a tough battle, but he unfortunately found good lines to pass Martin Venroda and to maintain his rhythm. He's leading the championship, but unfortunately won't be at the next round and final round. In fact, intense felt, the reason being that round clashes with a European Championship race. So Max Palsson knows that for as far as he participated in the ADAC MX Masters series in the Junior Cup, he was the winner. Of course, winning the championship for him would be probably out of the question now, because even if Martin Venroda himself participates in the European Championship races, I'm sure many of the German riders who are following them in the point standings at the moment would be at the last round and would almost certainly overtake them in the total point standings. Just have some advertising going on, and then after that the riders from the Youngster Cup, or as we would know it, the MX2 class, would line up. The ADAC, of course, is Germany's motoring organization. It is a huge organization with tens of millions of members, and fortunately for racing fans, they are very racing oriented. So you have them supporting track racing and off-road racing, both cars and bikes, motocross, road racing in terms of bikes, speedway, and everything. In fact, on the Youth Force Racing group, we've had featured the IDM, the International German Championships road racing, before. There we see Jeff Janssen, our friend, in view in one of the ads. He's, of course, Dutch rider, former rider, now living in Germany, well-known trainer, and also the man, the driving force behind the race day simulation training event, which gave us a bit of a taste of racing early on this year when we were so deprived. We're not missing any racing here. Oh, Maximilian Spies has chosen a different color outfit for this last race, which could be the telling one. He enjoys a points lead so far for the weekend. But of course, it's not a given until you've crossed the line. Very distinctive blue, white and red kits. In his previous race, he was more of a yellowy coloring.
hat er fette 47 Zähler auf seinem Konto. Jürgen Taimiko, die 2,61, der als Dritter ans Gate gehen darf. Der gewann zwar den ersten Lauf gestern, weil Spießen nicht aus dem Gate kam.
Jürgen Matthias Taimiko, second in the standings. We just
in dem
hear.
zweiten
And
Lauf
as we've said
ganz
before, the
schlechte erste
Estonian
Runde. War
won
nicht
the
in den
first
Top
race
10,
yesterday,
musste da ordentlich
was
kämpfen, dass er
sixth
zumindest
in the
Sechster
second
wurde.
race
Ja, und
earlier
Leon
today after a
Florian,
crash of the
der
start.
WZ-Pilot aus Erding bei München, er hat 38 Zähler, liegt damit nur 2 Punkte hinter Taimiko und Ludwig mit 36 Zählern dahin, die 696 der Schweizer und die 300 der Ascherslebener. Also das sollte zumindest von den Punkten her mal eine ganz,
All right,
ganz
and as I say, we're just experimenting with settings still on our online broadcasts. We're taking a feed, an external feed, and then feeding it back through our StreamYard platform so that we can live stream it. Riders just making their way to the gates. They would have chosen their gates already, would have prepared their gates. Of course, in the GP series, the riders now they start on grids, on metal grids, as is the case in the AMA series in America, where they have concrete start pads. So the traditional preparation of the gates and the rut no longer applies there, but here it still does. You'll see if you look there behind the start line a profusion of international flags. And of course, as we mentioned, there have been quite a few nationalities in the previous race. We counted in the top 10, 6 nationalities. There's the starting lineup for you. A notable mention again to Benedict Gertner that you see there in 8th place. This is a family we'd had contact with before. It's a brother and sister that races. And Benedict, when he was a youngster still on the 85s, his biggest dream was to just qualify for an ADAC race. He was just participating in regional races then, and it took a few times for him to only qualify in the lower classes. And here we have him in the Youngster Cup on the 250 bike, qualifying and knocking out a top 10 result on top of it. Riders lining up. You can see Maximilian Spietz on the number 7 bike. He's a huge rider. He's a very, very tall young man, as we said before, reminiscent of, let's say, Arminas Jasikonis, the Lithuanian that rides for the Husqvarna Rockstar Energy factory Husqvarna racing team, or maybe in previous years, Ken de Dijker.
Husqvarna vom Junior Muddy Racing Team. Er wird ja auch unterstützt vom ADAC Berlin-Brandenburg. Maximilian Spies, eigentlich in der 250er Europameisterschaft unterwegs. Macht da einen richtig guten Job. Und ja, weil die frei hatten letzte Woche, oder von seiner Mannschaft das WM probieren da gemacht. War ganz solide mit dabei und tatsächlich dann schon bei der 3. Veranstaltung gab es ein fettes Geschenk in Form von WM-Punkten.
Well, the fact that we heard that the next round of and final round of the ADAC Masters overlaps or clashes with a GP event would mean that Maximilian Spies, in all probability, will also not be at that event. He's a participant in the MX 250 class, and also, as we mentioned before, had a wildcard entry into a GP and promptly celebrated that particular occasion with some points. So he immediately bothered the scorers, immediately got himself onto the points table. Riders are in the starters' orders. Green flag's been waved. 15-second board is up. 5-second board is up, revving up, and they will be thundering down the straight now.
Und auf geht die Reise.
Oh, one rider down immediately and another one into
Jetzt
him.
mal überhaupt nichts für Kollege Spieß, dafür aber für Leon Florian.
Leon Florian in the lead.
KTM den Holeshot mal abholt. Ganz stark, während leider dann Spieß nicht so gut dabei war. Und wenn wir es richtig sehen, ist es der Niederländer.
Maximilian Spieß, some problems off the start, where we're not sure who are the riders that crashed that we saw in the background off the start. Oh, Florian already working up quite a lead. As you can see on this track, as is always the case in motocross, but particularly so on a track like this, a good start is very much important because you get immediately settle into your rhythm. There's a pass being made in the background. You immediately settle into your rhythm and can open up a gap. And we saw that in the 85cc class with Julek Mikula, who rocketed off the start. He obviously had his turbocharged Rice Krispies in the morning. And you will see that also in this race and also before in the 1 to 5 class. We're just pulling up the scoreboard or the timing sheet. Again, mentioning the Polish rider on the Suzuki.
Deutlich besser als sein Quali-Ergebnis. Ist ja nicht unbedingt jedermanns Sache, dieses neue Quali-Schema, was wir hier haben. Mit nur einem
I don't see him on the scoring sheet, so that might be the rider that went down.
sofort das Zeittraining unmittelbar im Anschluss.
Rick Elzinga, the Dutch rider in second position.
Im Moment hier
Marnik Appelt, the German third. Oh, no, indeed. There is Chetnicki, this Polish rider. Maybe the timing just missed him, but there he is now. It's been fixed. He is fourth. Oh. And our two leaders nowhere near in front. Maximilian Spies in 19th and Talviku in 22nd position. So this will be interesting to see which of them will be the best at coming through the pack.
Auf der 19. Position.
There we hear confirmation.
Natürlich der Kracher hier, aber Talviku auch nur auf 22. Das wird mal ein ganz interessantes Rennen werden über diese noch 17 plus 2. Ja, jetzt sehen wir die Spielergruppe Johannes Suzuki von Gabriel Cernicki, der eine sensationelle Entwicklung gemacht hat, vom Training Qualifying, wo es noch gar nicht ging, und dann in den Läufen doch dann schon immer so ein bisschen sich weiter hochgearbeitet hat und jetzt tatsächlich auf der 4. Position unterwegs ist, wird gejagt davon Mike Werner. Und gejagt wird auf der Spitze weiter Leon Florian Elzinga, der bereits im ersten Rennen gestern kurz mal in Führung lag. Der hat noch was gut zu machen. Der möchte noch mal einmal volle 25 Punkte kassieren. Und deswegen jetzt hier auf der Jagd nach dem Erdinger Leon Elzinga. Die haben sich auch schon deutlich absetzen können von den.
We're just about to reset our screen to full screen. So you will see maybe and there.
Fast Rad an Rad, die beiden parallel flogen. Elzinga kommt jetzt dran, nächste Kehre. Leon Florian, Wideway außen. Elzinga hat da die bessere Linie und ist der neue Spitzenreiter. Die 44 in the lead. Die 44 führt jetzt also hier das Feld an. Rick Elzinga, aktuell Sechster in der Addition der
And we've got the full screen back. Apologies about that. Some technical gremlins are bound to intrude every now and then with the first time broadcast. And Rick Elzinga, as we've heard there in the commentary, has indeed moved into the lead. And one would expect a Dutch rider to do well in a sand track such as this. Second is Leon Florian, Marnik Appelt, the German third, and Magnus Smith, oh, the Dane, in fourth. That's a very, very good ride from Magnus Smith. Mike Wad. Spies has moved himself to 11th, Talvico to 18th. So they are indeed making their way through the pack at some speed. Victor Kleeman, another Dane, one of two brothers here today, also a good ride, 16th at the moment. Talvico 31 seconds behind the leader, and Spies 25. So Talvico is some 6 seconds behind Spies, and that is where the battle lies. Talvico, unfortunately for him, not able to profit from Spies' bad starts. This would have been the ideal situation for him, but unfortunately for him, he had a bad start himself. Great ride from Rick Elzinga at the moment. He was also a participant in the race day simulation training early on in the year on a track not too dissimilar from this. So that would have been a good exercise for Rick Elzinga. He would, Maximilian Spies was also at one of those events, so Elzinga would have got a feel for what the speed he needs to produce to be able to match the front man. Oh, Mark Smith from Denmark moved into third spot at the expense of Appels.
Drücken wir ihm die Daumen, dass diesmal sitzen bleibt.
Jarni Koi, 9th position, very good ride for him. Oh, and we've just had a bit of an interruption in the stream. Let us see if we can get it recovered. Fortunately, the stream is back.
So, wir gucken und sehen, dass Spies bereits auf der 6. Position aufsteigt.
Spies already to 6th.
Was der hier anstellt, natürlich schon
Commentator very happy.
Von 25 Sekunden auf Elzinga, der da vorne frei fahren kann, während Spies da.
Elzinga at the moment the fastest on track, but Spies producing some good lap times himself. Elzinga posted a 2:11.7, Spies a 2:12.051. So just fractions of a second, Spies slower than Elzinga, but of course Elzinga has got clear ground ahead of him. But Spies is markedly faster than the riders ahead of him.
Mike Werder, aber jetzt muss sich erst einmal an Manik Appelt heranarbeiten.
Talvico at the moment in 14th position and being held up by some riders ahead of him. He's also substantially faster, but of course it's harder work getting through. Oh, look at the passes being made. Clean move, the commentator says. You can see how tall Spies is and how he makes that work for him. Those long legs, like I mentioned before, like an extra set of suspension. And look at the ruts on the takeoff to that jump.
In die mittlere Passage wird jetzt auch mit absoluter Sektorenbestzeit gemeldet. Und wir gehen hier.
Spies just posted the best time in his sector, in that sector. The commentator says to us and points it out. And of course, with the lap timing, it's sophisticated nowadays. You not only get the total lap time, but it's divided into sectors. So you can see during the course of the lap how the rider is doing.
So, Elzinga 3,4 Sekunden vor Leon Florian.
3.5 second lead for Elzinga. Magnus Smith having a tremendously good ride. Dane is also one of the members of our Youth Force Racing group, one of the early members. In fact, the Danes, a lot of the Danish riders adopted the group with great enthusiasm. So that was also a great thing to see.
Leon Florian gut unterwegs. kann aber nicht ganz das
Spies in
Tempo
5th
hier
position at the
entfalten
moment.
vom aktuellen
Now he's got a
Spitzenreiter.
bit of a gap to close because the rider ahead of him is some 5 seconds ahead. But Spies
Ja,
is
was
about
macht eigentlich
4
Berge
seconds a lap
Talvico?
faster than the
Aktuell
2 riders
Platz
ahead of him, so
12
he should close
für
that up in
den
another
Husqvarna-Piloten
lap and a
aus
half.
Estland. Das
9
wäre für
minutes of race
Gesamtrang
time
2
left, plus
im
2
Moment
laps.
einfach zu wenig, viel zu wenig. Denn da käme er gerade einmal auf 9 und
Talvico has moved into 12th.
da würde dann auch sogar
He is, there's a couple of small gaps ahead of him, so getting into 10th in short order shouldn't be too difficult for him.
So, Elzinga bereits hier mit den ersten Überrundungen.
Getting through the lapped riders. Rick Elzinga being able to ride his own race at the moment, and it happens like this. Once you got clean air in front of you and you settle into a rhythm, it starts to feel easy actually. The tension is off, the tension of the chase is off, and it's almost like a practice ride. We've heard riders say that time and time again. Mike Werder, the Swiss rider, 4th. We've had a good few Swiss riders represented here today. Good few German flags on the board. And indeed, Talvico has moved into 9th. But he is some 22 seconds behind Spies. So the way Spies is heading like a spear, which is what his surname means, the way he's spearing to the front, it would seem to indicate that the overall victory is his to lose. Magnus Smith just having still a bit of pressure from Mike Werder for 3rd place, but some 1.3 seconds clear. Oh, and Spies has latched right onto the tail of Guerda. Oh, and a yellow flag. Let's see what's riders, of course, not allowed to jump when a yellow flag is shown.
Ein bisschen verloren und die beiden müssen aufpassen, dass ihn Magnus Smith da nicht abhaut.
And a good rhythm there. You can see the good rhythm through that section there. Get some momentum through the outside. Now cutting to the inside, and he's through. And that means Spies has moved from all the way from mid-pack to 4th position. A remarkable ride. Clearly the rider of the day with this kind of performance. Talvico in 9th. Elzinga's lead at the moment 7.5 seconds. So unless something drastically goes wrong for him, I think this would be his race. Spies is some 24 seconds behind the leader, but more importantly for him, every position that he makes up brings him closer to the overall victory. Talvico has passed Jarni Kooi. He's in 8th position now.
Und da sind es dann noch 1,2 Sekunden nur. Wie Spies dahinter. Der probiert es jetzt auf der Außenbahn.
Spies has caught up to Magnus Smith, 1.2 seconds behind. So maybe you'll push the Dane out from the top 3 position in this race. But taking nothing away from Magnus Smith, this is a great ride from him in a very competitive class. Spies clearly a class apart in this race, and indeed at this event.
Stärkstes Rennen bisher hier an diesem Wochenende vom Dänen. Frage ist, wie lange wird Spies dort widerstehen können?
Yeah, that's indeed the question. As we heard, how long can Smith keep Spies behind him? because as we saw, Spies is not in the mood to hover about. And he immediately goes around the outside.
Und zack, ist vorbei und damit bereits Platz Nummer 3.
Third place for
Spies
Spies.
hier bei seiner mega Aufholjagd in dem letzten Lauf der Youngster an diesem Wochenende in Grevenbroich.
Elzinga still in the lead, and we'll see on our
Und zieht jetzt hier
9.3 second lead for Elzinga.
Aber wir haben keine 5 Minuten mehr. Das hat also doch schon eine Viertelstunde.
Less than 5 minutes less in the race, so time will run out for Spies to make up any more positions, because he's some 14 seconds behind Leon Florian in second position and some 24 seconds behind the lead.
Ja, ist der fast uneinholbar unterwegs. Rick Elzinga allerdings wohl auch im Moment uneinholbar mit dem Laufsieg. 9,3 Sekunden hat er herausgefahren auf Leon Florian. 23 Sekunden sind es auf Spies. Und er sollte jetzt sich vielleicht einfach zufrieden geben mit dem Thema. Okay, dann ist es 3.
Sorry, we just had a semi-system crash, so we would have lost the feed for a second or two. We're back now. Jürgen Matthias Talvico at the moment in 7th position, 8 seconds behind Marnik Appelt. On comparative lap times, he might just make it into 6th.
Jetzt im Moment. Spies würde also das Overall sich holen vor Leon Florian und vor Rick Elzinga, wenn es denn so bleibt jetzt hier in den letzten 3 Minuten plus 2 Runden. Das ist also die inoffizielle Rechnung. Rick Elzinga, das sieht hier sehr, sehr sicher aus. Wie gesagt,
Rick Elzinga, comfortable, as we've just heard, comfortable in the lead. Now is the time to just concentrate, let the race come to you, and just make it to the finish line. Doesn't need to do anything special. His lap times are still good. He's just 0.7 of a lap slower than Spies, and at that rate, Spies won't catch him. So Elzinga just has to maintain his calm. 2 minutes left plus 2 laps, which would make it around about 4 laps left.
Für euch jetzt schon zu kaufen. Im Sommer 2021 www.adc.de/motorsport für all diejenigen, die sich auch für Knie-Raus-Racing interessieren. Elzinga. Wir haben noch 3 Runden auf jeden Fall. Das könnte ganz knapp werden. 11 Sekunden jetzt auf Leon Florian.
Commentator very, very hopeful that Spies can still catch Elzinga. I don't know that I agree with Tommy on this one, unless something goes wrong with Elzinga. The last lap time, Elzinga was a 2:17.6. Spies was a 2:15, so it's 2 seconds faster for Spies. But even with 3 laps left, more or less, Spies would close up around about 6 seconds on Elzinga at this rate, and Elzinga at the moment has a 22-second lead. So unless, another yellow flag. Oh, rider stuck on track. Fortunately not down. Rider is okay. Unless something drastically goes wrong with Elzinga, this should be his race, at least for this particular heat. The overall victory is already, as I said, in smelling distance for Maximilian Spies. Talvico up to 7th now, and he will rue the bad start that befell him, because, as I said, with points leader Spies having had problems off the start himself, this would have been the ideal opportunity for Talvico to have pounced and get the overall victory his way.
4 Sekunden schneller als Leon Florian. Und bei noch 3 Runden und 10 Sekunden Gap
Now Spies might get into second. He's 4 seconds a lap faster than Leon Florian, with 2 laps to go and around about 10 seconds to catch up. So he might move into second at this rate.
So, Zeit ist abgelaufen, das heißt, es geht jetzt gleich noch in die letzten beiden Runden. Für die 44, für Regelzinger genauso ist es. 2 Runden stehen hier noch an.
And again, we have to mention Magnus Smith, the Dane. Great ride from him, still holding steady in 4th. Talviku has just moved himself into 6th position. And that's probably where he'll strand, because he's some 10 seconds behind Mike Werder.
Was geht da bei Spies? Na, das ist dann nicht. Das ist ein zu überrundener Pilot. Maximilian Spies taucht aber dann gleich.
With 2 laps to go, Spies is some 7.78 seconds behind second. So you'd have to make about 4 seconds a lap to make it. On average, at the moment, he's only 2 seconds a lap faster than Florian, so probably not going to make it. But let's see. We don't know what is the state of exhaustion of Florian. We don't know how motivated Spies is. Obviously, he must also guard that he doesn't make a mistake and crash and throw away his overall victory.
Ist auf jeden Fall jetzt auch mit diesem 3. Platz Gesamtsieger.
Spies already overall winner. We've just heard from the commentator there if he finishes in this position.
In der kompletten Zeit von 20 Minuten plus 2 Runden. Aber Leon Florian, der hat natürlich auch von seiner Boxenmannschaft das Hallo-Wachboard bekommen.
Leon Florian, as we've heard, been warned by his helpers, with his pit board, that there's a rocket fast 7 approaching. Better get a bit of a hurry up, and that will probably motivate him just to give it his all for this very last lap. Yeah, 7.9 seconds. Florian is ahead of Spies. That might be just a bit too much of an ask. Magnus Smith, again, we cannot overestimate this and overemphasize what a good ride it is from the young Dane.
Mit seiner 44er KTM. Der wird sich mit diesem Laufsieg noch aufs Podium fahren.
Elzinga has a chance of the overall podium, the commentator says, and which would be a great result, of course, for the young Dutch rider.
Zwischen Elzinga und Talviku. Denn da ist dann wirklich die Frage.
Talviku has worked himself up to 3.5 seconds behind Guerda. He actually made good about 8 seconds on that last lap. So that might mean that Talviku could gain another spot on this last lap. We'll have to check it out. That could have a bearing on the overall result as well.
Auch ganz bescheiden gestartet. Aber dieser Talviku ist im Moment der Allerschnellste auf der Strecke. Bei der letzten Runde
That's we just heard, and as we pointed out, Talviku posted the fastest lap of all on all riders on this last lap. So he's obviously a man on a mission.
Mit Rick Elzinga, der hier dem Laufsieg entgegenfährt.
Elzinga at the moment, orange 44, and if you're a bingo player, maybe that's your number for the evening.
In diesem Lauf dürften sicher vergeben sein, zumindest die Top 3. Rick Elzinga, Leon Florian, Maximilian Spies haben die halbe Meter drin.
Elzinga just cruising at the moment, not wishing any last lap mayhem to befall him, choosing the ruts, easy over the jump, not taking any risks.
Wird sich der Niederländer freuen können.
And according to our timing, Elzinga has in fact crossed the line. The video feed obviously lagging just a bit behind. with Florian second, Spies third.
Rick Elzinga. Ja, auch da schwindet jetzt so ein bisschen
Obviously,
die
with
Körperspannung
the
durch
buffer
die
problem
letzten
that we
Meter.
had,
Aber
there we see
nichtsdestotrotz, hier ist
Elzinga
wieder
visually
Ausflug
crossing the
Niederlande.
line.
Rick
Talvico was in
Elzinga.
6th, just 0.8 of a
Gratulation
second
an den
behind
Niederländer.
Mike Werder. So
Platz Nummer
we'll have to
2 auf
see
dem Podium,
what
Leon
effect that
Florian.
has on the
Und
final
Runner
overall
des
standings.
Rennens hier. Danke für die tolle Unterhaltung. Die 7, Maximilian Spies. Der reckt die Faust nach
So
oben.
Spies will head like a spear, if you'll pardon the pun, to the podium where he's due to collect the largest trophy.
Und bei den Verfolgern, wie sieht es da aus? Gwerder rettet hiermit noch nicht einmal einer Sekunde vor Talvico seinen 5. Rang. Und damit müsste Rick Elzinga mit aufs Gesamtpodium gehen. Tolles Racing hier. Ganz, ganz spannend. Vor allen Dingen die Aufholjagd von Maximilian Spies.
All right, now one final podium ceremony for us for the day, and then we'll sign out. Again, this was an experimental broadcast just to check on our systems, just to check on various technical issues. I hope that you enjoyed it with us. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the comments. Look out during the week for more great interviews in our Velocity Speed Talk series.
Die Schulterpolster darunter und aufgeben ist keine Option. Kommt jetzt hier ins Ziel. Mr. Fluttershirt, kleinen Sonderapplaus fürs Durchhalten an Lukas.
Spectators making their way under the tunnel back to the paddock.
Racing fürs nächste Rennen vom Sponsor EXS besorgt werden. Nico Koch wurde übrigens 8. Peter König 9. Koi 10.
Yannick Koi, a very good 10th place. Good ride from the Belgian.
Und dann warten wir noch auf Dilbrassin und Fiedler. Das sind nämlich die letzten, die mit dem Sieger in einer
just checking down the field, see which other, the Polish rider Gabriel Chetnicki on the Suzuki, only Suzuki in the field, finished 12th.
So, Dilbrassin ist im Ziel, hat sich da am Ende eine 2:41er Runde.
And Romain Delbrassin from Belgium in 18th, so he also worked himself into the points.
19. Position.
Benedict Gertner unfortunately fell out on the 6th lap, so he didn't add to his score. So let us see when we head down to the podium, and we'll try and adjust the volume accordingly.
In der Youngster-Klasse oder besser gesagt Rick Elzinga, Leon Florian, Maximilian Spies sind die Top 3. Magnus Schmidt, starkes Rennen, Mike Werder, Jürgen Talvico auf der 6. Manik Appelt, dann 7. Der Motorsportspilot. Hier nochmal eine schicke Aufholjagd gezeigt von Nico Koch auf der SAR Yamaha. Peter König ist als KTM. Janokoi kommt Racing dann auf 10.
Maximilian Spies, you see there with a very, very well recognized GP name in his team name, the Muddy Husqvarna team. So, of course, his talents have been recognized at top level already.
Ja, und dann wird es dann gleich auch schon in die Sieger.
The riders that you see preparing their gates, there are the MX Masters riders. We won't be covering that race. However, you can follow it live on the YouTube feed. The link was posted in our or on the Youth Force Racing page. Oh, some track officials enjoying a bit of sun, looking for all the world that they are fishing next to the river. And we're back to the commentator.
Vielen Dank, Tommy. Nochmals grüß Gott und herzlich willkommen hier bei der Siegerehrungsrückfahrt am Podium, da wo wir jetzt nämlich hingehören. Wir haben die Gesamtsiegerehrung des ADAC MX Youngster Cup. vorbereitet für Sie. Was für ein packendes Rennen haben wir hier gesehen. Was für Aufholjagden haben wir hier gesehen. Dazu aber später noch ein bisschen mehr. Wir kommen zu Platz 3 Gesamtwertung an diesem Rennwochenende. Mit der Nummer 44 vom TBS KTM.
Rick Elzinga made himself onto the podium. The pass that he didn't make cost Talviku the podium, unfortunately.
Auch da gibt es natürlich einen 24 MX Gutschein und die Trophäe. Und der zweite Platz, meine Damen und Herren, ladies and gentlemen, second place. Mit der Nummer 239 vom BZ Racing Team KTM. Mit der 239 Leon Florian.
Local rider Leon Florian in second. So Germans 1 and 2. Good work for the home
der
team.
Sieger, was für ein spektakuläres Wochenende hat der hinter sich. Was für ein spektakulärer Rennsonntag hat das hinter sich. Vom Husqvarna Junior Racing Team, meine Damen und Herren, mit der Nummer 7 Maximilian Spiel.
Tall rider, as you can see. He doesn't even need to get onto the podium.
Von 24 MX und natürlich die Trophäe. Und jetzt, meine Damen und Herren, hören wir die zur Ehre des Siegers, die Hymne aus Deutschland. Und nochmals der große Applaus von den Teams für unsere 3 Jungs der Youngster Cups. So, jetzt gibt es natürlich noch ein paar Worte vom Maxi Spieß. Komm ruhig ein bisschen, oder bleib oben, wie du dich wohler fühlst, Maxi, was war beim Start los? Einfache Frage, vielleicht gar nicht so eine einfache Antwort. Was war los am Start?
Ja, ich bin gut rausgekommen, habe einen kleinen Schlenker gemacht. Bin innen mit rumgekommen, war eigentlich ganz gut, aber ein Honda-Fahrer vor mir ist gestürzt und ich bin voll in ihn rein, habe mich überschlagen, lag unter dem Motorrad. Ja, war kurz heiß gewesen, aber ich wusste, ich muss in die Top 3 kommen für einen Tagessieg und ich habe alles gegeben, um das zu schaffen.
He's saying that the rider crashed in front of him at the start and he went tipped over and had to make his way from the back.
Jetzt nochmals eine Frage, die letzte Frage. In 2 Wochen steht Tänzfeld am Programm. Erwartungshaltung jetzt nach diesen Erfahrungen hier in Grevenbroich?
Natürlich, ganz klar verteidigen, den Titel holen.
So schaut's aus. So lasst uns verstehen, meine Damen und Herren. Das sind unsere Piloten der Youngster-Klasse. Und wir zu Hause, meine Damen und Herren, geben jetzt mit diesem Bild ab. Kurz in die Werbung und dann sind wir zurück mit den Big Boys, die Masters.
So, Maximilian Spies holding open the possibility that he will be in fact present at Grevenbroich in 2 weeks' time, so maybe not participating at the GP on that weekend. In any case, that is it as far as our broadcast is concerned. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was an experiment. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for joining in and clicking on the link. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Keep a lookout on the Youth Force Racing page for some Velocipede Speed Talk interviews later in the week. And with that, it is me, Tinus Nell, signing off for the last time on this weekend.